My brothers and sisters, on today's Wednesday, I Spy with Cy, joined by Cy Kellett, we are going to venture into the unknown. What is it that we have not yet uncovered that today Cy Kellett will uncover for us? Cy, welcome to today's broadcast of Morning Joy. What do you got for us today?
Nick, thank you very much. I got a meme for you today. And
Amazing.
So I don't know if you've seen this, but there's kind of a famous meme that sometimes goes around on the social media sites that claims that medieval peasants worked way less than modern people work. And the central claim of it is that medieval peasants worked about 150 days each year because the church had so many feast days. Well, maybe. Nobody really knows for sure, and we shouldn't be too bold in our claims, but the very existence of this meme and its popularity online should get us talking about a few things. Specifically, why do modern people feel so tired and so exhausted? Why do we look around at other eras and other systems and ask ourselves, sometimes it almost seems desperately, whether people in those times and places might have been better at life, at living than we are? And even if we don't work twice as much as a medieval peasant, we feel exhausted from the amount of time we devote to work, to commuting to and from work, to the isolation from family and friends that we have at work because we don't work anywhere near home. And medieval peasants worked with their family and friends within walking distance of their house. So they definitely worked less than we do. And the things that go around work also made their life a bit less hard. What a different day that would have made for us if we were able to, if we as modern people were to be with family and friends instead of leaving the house at say 7 in the morning. I know it's much earlier for you, Nick, and getting home at like 6 in the evening. And economist Juliet Shore actually kind of sparked this debate years ago when she wrote a book about how tired modern people are, and she calculated that the adult male peasant in the 13th century in England worked about 160 hours less per year than the modern worker. And as I said, that's before we count commuting and without taking in consideration all that time we are away from our family and friends. Also, it is true that the medieval calendar granted more than 100 mandatory days off, saints' days, feast days, Sundays, sometimes on a given year, depending on what was declared by the church, it could be up to a third of the year that you had off. So when you add it all up, you see that the average medieval peasant partied more than we do, had an easier commute than we do, worked less than we do, and spent more time around family and friends. That does not stack up to be very good for us. And one way of thinking about this is that the medieval peasant lived by what economists call task time. They worked the field until the task, the plowing, the sowing, the harvesting was done. Work was seasonal, it was concrete, it was measurable against the natural rhythm of the day and of the year. And when the harvest was finished, work stopped. Modern life is ruled by what we call clock time, which is abstract. You can divide it any way you want. It never ends. In the industrial and post-industrial age, value is kind of negotiated between the employer and the employee. Basically, you're selling your hours to the employee. So there's this pervasive feeling that the work is never done. There's always more that could have been done. There are other elements that add to the modern exhaustion, though, and you're not going to want to hear this, but one of them is television. Watching television wastes a tremendous amount of time, and it's actually not as relaxing as we think it is. It doesn't relax the mind as well as reading or napping or praying or just hanging out with your friends. Like Nick plays guitar, just sit around, play the instruments with the friends. You can add to all of this. Yeah, you do, right, Nick? You jam on your guitar. I know that.
I do.
Yeah, I've actually seen this with my own eyes. So, but that's actually really good because there's a way that you're relaxing when you're playing a musical instrument into a task in a way that you're not relaxing when you're just receiving the stimulus of television. That's what television is constant stimulus. So add to all this things that medieval people almost never did that we do. Almost never waited in line, almost never filled out forms, never had to manage complex systems like insurance, income tax, home loans, credit cards. You could probably name 100 of these. Now you're starting to get a sense of the root of our exhaustion. But I would like to point to one other reason why we romanticize the life of a medieval peasant, which after all was not that easy of a life, and that is identity. We're more exhausted than the medieval peasant because our identity is less secure. the medieval peasant, they were secure in their position. We're not clear on our identity. We're not part of a community that has a clear place for us. In the Middle Ages, identity and community were largely assigned to you. Now, we don't like that. We think we love mobility and all of that. But there's a kind of benefit to having an assignment within a community, having your place in a community. You were the son of the weaver or the daughter of the manor or a member of the church. That's social rigidity, but it kind of provides an ease to the mind that we don't have when you know your place in God's created order. Modern society kind of removed the anchors and replaced them with this kind of, you can be anything, you can do anything, which is the most stress-inducing sentence in the history of the world. You cannot be or do anything. That is wearing people out, that idea. So there's a kind of a psychological cost to our freedom in the modern world. We can't find our identity assigned to us, so we have to achieve it, or even worse, we have to perform it. We have to make up an identity. People talk about their brand. How exhausting to not just be a person, but to be a brand. So we're continuously kind of auditioning for other people. We work a lot. We watch a lot of TV. We commute a lot. We're constantly navigating complex systems, impersonal systems. And we're never completely secure in our own identities in the modern world. Then you see these memes that come out that say, hey, the medieval farmer worked 150 days a year and had tons of feast days. And you start to feel like, man, we are doing this modern world wrong. And maybe we are. Maybe we are, because even when we take a break, we're not quite resting. You know, medieval people, they celebrated feasts where they got together with all the people they love. When we need a break, we veg out in front of the TV, or we go on a vacation where we get even farther away from all the people that we love and everything that we belong to. I'm not trying to talk down the modern world. We have immense political and physical freedoms that are really valuable. But there's a reason memes out there are so popular about how little medieval people worked. The medieval peasants' exhaustion was physical and seasonal. Ours is kind of endless. It's day after day after day, and it wears on people. And it's a kind of fatigue that we develop. We need true rest. Let's talk about what we need a little bit before I end. We need community. We need silence. We need meaning. We need a sense of purpose. And where can we find all that? Well, medieval people found it in a life of prayer, fasting, charity, and thanksgiving. They had a word for that life. They called it Catholic. And it's a pretty good life. Maybe more modern people should try it. I don't know, Nick. What do you think?
My goodness, Cy, this is such an incredible thing you're bringing to us here this morning. You know, you made me think of St. Augustine's "Lord, our hearts are restless until they rest in Thee," and it seems like what you're talking about, what you're proposing, is a restless life. And I want my life to be way more restful. You know, and I think on top of everything you said here, it's like, where's the vitamin D from the sun? What can we do? My friend Cy, what can we do to fix this, right? Because you can't just go to your employer and say, hey, I'm going to stop selling you my time and I'm going to start selling you my tasks. Right. Well, how can we practically institute some of these ideas?
Well, we do need to stop being so isolated and find our way back into communities of other people, and maybe subtracting some of the time that is spent on television and putting it back into community. But the ultimate answer is the person of Jesus, who said, "Come to me and I will give you rest." He meant it. He will give us rest. And the modern life that has kind of taken Jesus out of the mix, has taken the whole Christian sense of purpose and meaning out of life, is a life that where the heart can't rest, where the mind can't even rest, where we're constantly stimulated, and there's no place to go to get away from that and just have a conversation with another person.
Wow. Yes, my goodness. You know, just last night, what you're talking about, my wife and I were almost going to watch TV, and then we were just like, no, let's just sit and talk, and it was so much better. So I love your acuity here. What are some examples like that you might give us that we can practically just immediately launch into today?
Well, first of all, I don't know if you have this experience, but my wife does that when football is on, not when Bravo Network is on with the housewives or whatever, right? Like, that's not when she's saying, let's talk. It's when Monday Night Football is on. Then, hey, we should visit. So I maybe All right, that's not fair. My wife is sleeping. I shouldn't be picking on her while she's sleeping. There's the thing about like, for example, I'll just give an example. Halloween. People,
Mm.
they don't people. This is a Catholic feast that got turned into a secular feast. But what are its features? People go out and visit their neighbors door to door. That is the craziest thing. We don't ever do that in the modern world. We should value those things. We should really value those opportunities. People in the United States in the 1950s, do you know that they had a weird thing in the 1950s called inviting other people over for dinner? That we don't do that anymore. Like if you look at the actual statistics of now, a lot of people are going to look at that and go, "Oh, you're telling me one more thing that I need to do." But there has to be addition by subtraction. We do have to stop doing some of the things we're doing. It's extremely hard to break the television habit. One time, Nick, I gave up television for Lent. And you know what I have to do every Lent? I have to give up television again because it never lasts all the way around now I've gotten to the point where no television in Advent, no television in Lent. I haven't wiped it out of ordinary time yet, but so I realize this is really, really hard, but there is a kind of addition by subtraction. Let go of some of that stuff. Let your brain breathe a little bit and then invite a neighbor over for dinner. Hang out in the yard with the neighbors. Like I think we have to get back to basic sociability. And frankly, if Christians don't do it, nobody's going to do it. It's not
Wow.
this is one of our duties. God called us
Yes.
into communion with himself. We need to remind people that there's a human level to life. You don't that commute is in fact killing you. And you got to do it, but you also got to take a break from it.
Amen, brother. Thank you so much for bringing this to light this morning on I Spy with Cy. This has been so beautiful. Thank you for the time you've taken with us this morning. This is a message that I need to more deeply ingrain. So thank you this morning, Cy, for everything that you brought us.
God bless you, Nick. Thank you.